This is the CNC Geekcast, the podcast where two guys with speech impediments talk about movies. I'm Joseph Collins.
And I'm Paul Combs.
And on today's episode, we'll be continuing to talk about horror movies for the month of October with the movie It. We're going to be talking about the plot, the characters, the structure of the film, and much more. So stay tuned!
Okay guys, we're about to get right into this film, but before we do, we want to give everybody a quick warning. There's going to be a ton of spoilers. Everything is going to get spoiled.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen this movie, get out there, go watch it, and come back and listen to this episode.
Yes, and the movie is also a rated R film, so we're going to be talking about everything in this film. But let's let people know the content does matter.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway, this movie, I have to say that I'm not a big horror movie fan in general, but when I saw the Nostalgia Critic review of the original It, I had like a special connection with it. So I'm like, okay, this is the one horror movie that I would like to go see, and so I decided to bite the bullet and go see it. But
are you glad you did?
No, I'm glad I did because this film was really good. But did you ever see the original 1990 series?
I didn't. I've watched the Nostalgia Critic review, and I've seen some snippets of it on YouTube. Some of the more weird snippets.
Okay.
And I'm familiar with it. I'm familiar with Tim Curry's performance. I'm familiar with the story, but I've never seen the movie and I've never read the book.
From what you saw, what you think of it? From like the 1990s series?
Well, it seemed like it went in a completely different direction because Tim Curry is always fantastic.
Oh yeah, he's a really good actor.
In the 1990 miniseries, if you've never seen any snippets of it, instead of Bill Skarsgard's performance in the new It, which is kind of understated, which is more unpredictable, Tim Curry goes more full-on clown.
Yeah, more cheesy, more,
Yeah.
and a lot of kids, when we were younger, I never saw it when I was growing up, but a lot of people our age said when they were young, this movie really creeped them out, which is understandable from a 1990 standpoint.
Well, it's kind of understandable to begin with because it's taken this thing intended to be wholesome. I mean, clowns are intended to bring people joy, and then it's turning this into literally a demon.
This is true. Now, you did say there's a reason why clowns nowadays are considered to be scary and not happy.
Well, partly because of It, because a lot of people have memories of It and Tim Curry's performance, but also because of John Wayne Gacy.
Okay.
Like, he was a serial killer who liked young boys, and he would dress
Dress up as a clown.
Yeah, dress up as a clown.
Okay, was this before It or after?
No, this was significantly before It. This was like in the 60s or 70s.
Because I'm wondering if Stephen King was inspired by Jeremy.
I would honestly be willing to bet he was inspired by John Wayne Gacy. Obviously, I don't know that, but I would be willing. I would probably bet money on it.
Okay. Now, unlike the miniseries, which was constructed just like the book, the book was basically telling a story through a series of flashbacks. The miniseries decided to do the same thing, but it didn't work for the miniseries because, of course, novels and cinema is not the same thing. It didn't work. What did you think about them breaking this film down into two parts?
Well, in novels, it works because you have different chapter marks that kind of mark the flashback. It makes it easier. Whereas in movies, you just have that scene transition, and it's jarring. It makes it harder to connect with characters. Because even I hate to talk about this, but it's part of like what bothered me with Batman vs Superman.
Okay.
The fact that so much it was told non-linear. It always bothers me. And like, I don't mean Batman vs Superman. I mean Man of Steel. The fact that it was told non-linear, it bothered me a whole lot because it made it harder to connect. It made it harder to get the feel of how this action led into the next action.
Yeah, and I recently, talking about that, I saw Batman Begins, and I could tell there's a difference between how that was approached and how Man of Steel approached, because there's always scenes that triggered the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Man of Steel didn't really have those, and it wasn't non-linear.
Yeah, exactly. But because non-linear storytelling makes it a lot harder to connect and a lot harder to understand the flow. And I'm really glad that they made the decision to split it into two parts. Because first off, they got some fantastic child actors for this film.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like one of them, fans of Stranger Things will recognize.
Yeah.
But the rest of them didn't recognize, and they all gave fantastic performances.
Yeah, but so did the actor who played Pennywise.
Yes, Bill Skarsgard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. But I also agree with that because you have a lot of movies that are based on books that you have, like, for example, Harry Potter had the first 6 films. You have 6 books, and they all were able to basically take the book and find a way to compact it into movies. It came time to, make the 7th book into a film. They decided to break it into 2 parts. Mm-hmm. So you have part 1, part 2. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Twilight and Hunger Games. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really glad, and that's one of the reasons why they did it was because the studio just wanted more money. But I'm really glad that they decided to give themselves the space to break it down into 2 parts. They can tell better stories this way. In this film, they talked about the kids, and the next film, they're going to talk about the parents. But
talk about not the parents, talk about the adults.
The adults. I'm sorry, my mistake. But talking about the kids, what did you think about the characters? I mean, in general, because this film decided to make that decision, they could focus on the kids. What did you think?
Well, first off, I love that the film was rated R. First off, the kids could talk like real kids, because in a lot of films, these kids talk like perfect little angels even when their parents aren't around, and that's just not the way it goes. Because we've all been 12 and 13. And the hormones are just starting, and you first start learning cuss words, so you got to pepper them in everywhere.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked the aspect of the movie. Mm. And I also liked the fact that these were all kind of black sheep kids that were all bullied for various reasons. And then they all kind of found each other and came together. As shown in the fantastic scene about halfway through the movie. Mm. There's a fantastic scene where they're running from the bullies, and the bullies start throwing rocks at them. And then you see all 7 kids for the first time line up and start throwing rocks back. And I kind of love that. It showed the unity amongst these children.
Yeah, they also showed the ability for them to conquer those fears.
Yeah.
Which was something that was developing because they kept on getting scared by Pennywise.
Yeah.
I did like the beginning of this film really much because I like Billy's character arc, and I like how in the beginning Billy is not a type of character that hates his young brother, or not doesn't hate, but just dismisses him or thinks that he's annoyance. He actually does love his young brother and wants to help. But in this film, or the book, he couldn't go outside. It was raining, he couldn't go outside to play with Billy. Not Billy, but Georgie. And he felt bad when he found out that Georgie went missing.
Yeah, well, I really liked the opening scene too. I also liked it because a lot of kids' movies, like when it comes to killing kids, that they will like cut away and kind of imply some things.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it instantly established the tone.
Yeah.
Like, this movie is going to be intense. This movie is going to be kind of creepy and. Yeah,
I think you said that when it comes to Kevin Feige, who talked about his movies and how he approached movies. It's like, he said that when it comes to, like, for example, Captain America 2, he said he wanted to make a spy thriller, but with superheroes. Mm. Well, this film took the exact same concept. And a lot of people went into it saying, well, this film disappointed me because it didn't have that many scales. And I heard that I was watching one review, a couple of reviews, I think it was a Nostalgia Critic, and his brother talked about how this film didn't know what it wanted to be. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, no, it knows exactly what it is. It is a coming-to-age story like Stand By Me and E.T., but with a horror theme attached to it, like your spy thriller with Captain America 2, but with superheroes attached to it.
Because that opening scene did something that a lot of horror movies are unable to do. It made it feel like all the characters are in danger. Because as someone that has never watched the miniseries, as someone that has never watched or read the book, I legitimately felt that all the kids were in danger. I didn't know if any of them died.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. And that opening scene helped establish that we're gonna kill the kids. We're not afraid to kill the kids.
Yeah, that I also agree with that. But before we get down to the kids, let's focus on Pennywise for a minute, because the actor who played Pennywise really did a great job.
He brought some kind of unpredictability to it. Even some of his movements they seem unnatural.
Yeah.
So it really works, because it's like you don't know what you're dealing with. It's like it's obviously isn't a person in a clown suit.
Yeah.
It's the kids know that. They don't know what it is, but it's obvious that
it's not human.
It's not human, and it's monstrous. Mm-hmm. And well, first off, Bill Skarsgard really brought that unpredictability to it. Just the way he changed his voice, his movements, flexible stuff he actually did for real, and even the eye thing he did for real, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, because you actually read an article about how the director talked about how, he was talking to the actors, like, okay, you know what, we're going to have them eye tricks, and we're going to fix them post, or just do this thing, and the actor's like, oh, well, I can do that anyway.
Yeah, it's called deviate your eyes, because you'll notice throughout the movie, which makes it even more creepy and otherworldly, a lot of times his eyes are looking in 2 different places.
Yeah.
That was actually the actor Bill Skarsgard doing that.
Oh man, that's creepy. And I also talked to some friends, and they said sometimes he took the eye and looked directly into the camera while the other one was looking into the actor. And I'm like, I don't know if that. I mean, I'm sure that was. I don't know if they had to talk about that or not. If that was just having to happen, and the director's like, "Oh, well, that was cool anyway." But still, it's creepy because it feels like he's also watching the audience, you, the audience, and it's kind of like breaking the fourth wall without actually breaking the fourth wall.
But what do you think of the other characters in this film? Did you have a favorite?
I think that my favorite arc in this film was Beverly's.
Yeah,
and that's simply because I think when it comes to, I mean, even though that we all been in situations where we've lost a loved one, Billy's character basically is the driving force. You know, he's like trying to find out what happened to his brother was the MacGuffin. It's what, you know, pushed him. It's what gave him the courage, and finding out that, you know, Pennywise killed or murdered the brother, that gave him like, you know, I'm going to get this clown back. Mm-hmm. So I did like it, but that wasn't really interesting. It's like, okay, I get that. It's been seen in other movies. It's relatable, but we've seen it many times. Beverly's character arcs, however, I thought this movie did a really good job of highlighting that situation, because Beverly's character is in a situation where she seems like she's bright and happy and full of joy, like just like any other kid would be. But when she gets home to a father who is, I don't know what's the best way to put it is.
Well, he seems to have a sexual attraction to his daughter. Like the movie never outright
says it.
Maybe never kind of goes that far with it, but it is heavily implied.
Yes.
Heavily implied.
It is. And I think for me, that was the most scariest thing about the movie. It wasn't Pennywise's scenes. I mean, those scenes were intense and they're meant to scale, but the most scariest thing was, you know, Beverly's father. Mm-hmm. Because that's something that, you know, like I said, that's a scary idea.
And even the creepier things, like when she brings the tampons home and he sees them, and he's like, I thought you were my little girl, and all that.
But it's creepy because he seemed happy because she's growing up, and I'm like, oh, that's really creepy.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, even though that, and I do like the scene where she does go to buy the tampons. It does a very good job when it comes to movies in general, where you get your audience connected to the characters. Everybody can understand, you know, women in having to do that, and especially a woman at a young age. They understand that, so you automatically have that established. But the thing that really creeps me out, and I think is the most potent scene in this movie, is when the father touches Beverly's hair, and at this point her hair was long, and she decides to go to the bathroom and cuts it all off. Mm. And suddenly I'm like, I understand why, because for the longest time, in general, long hair for a woman represents things like, you know, beauty and something like, you know, it's a feature that is feminine to an extent, traditionally speaking. And only that, but, you know, it's something that they are proud of and they like. But when a father touches it in a non-nurturing, because fathers are supposed to be nurturing and kind, but in a sexual way, at that point, it's a symbol of perversion. And so it's like she starts cutting it off because she doesn't want that perversion on her. And not only that, but I can also understand from the other standpoint, is like if he's attracted to me because of my long hair, if I cut it off, he may not be attracted to me anymore. Because there's a scene where after she did that, the dad's like, "Oh, you cut your hair, you no longer look like a girl," and like that's the point. And so that is a very, very powerful scene for me from a psychological standpoint. I mean, I'm like, yeah, that's heavy hitting, and I like how this movie was able to approach that subject and get that point across and get us to understand that, you know.
Well, I also like the movie didn't make some later scenes creepy with Beverly. Like for example, when they go swimming, they all strip down to their underwear. Yeah, and we're kind of looking at someone's supposed to be a young girl, and it feels weird. But the movie did a very good job, like, not overtly sexualizing these characters, which I really liked.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that too, because there are definitely laws when it comes to that. I liked how the filmmakers were able to get the idea across. Like, here are these kids, they sit 13-year-olds attracted to a girl, just like any adult is, but it's like you said, it's a coming-of-age story. So they did need to, of course, tread lightly when it comes to that. But I really do like how they approached it. I do agree with that, to get that idea across, but still not make it creepy for the audience. So, but when it comes to Beverly, no, I think her character arc was probably the most potent. But what do you think of the other ones?
Well, I really liked Billy's too, because after the opening scene, Billy blames himself. Mm-hmm. You had this, he couldn't go with Georgie that day. He was sick in bed, and Georgie was wanting to go float his boat, so he helped him build his boat, and he wished him well, like he would any other day, and then Georgie never came home, and they never found the body, so Billy like forever blames himself for that.
And became obsessed.
Yeah, he even becomes obsessed. Like he builds these little experiments to try to find out like what may have happened to Georgie's body. He keeps looking for him, hoping he's going to find him alive, even though he knows that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and when his dad was like, we talked about this, you need to stop. And even his dad was like, you could tell that his parents were upset about it. And he's like, we're so upset that they don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
No, I do agree. But at the same time, like I said, it's like that. But what do you think of like all the other kids? Like?
Well, one of my issues with this film is that, yeah, we got good character arcs for Beverly and Billy, and even Ben a little bit. But
Like the new kid. I liked his character too because he's the one that the movie used for exposition. Trying to explain to the audience exactly what's going on, who Pennywise is, how long Pennywise has been doing this, and the fact that this town has been around a long time, and established, Pennywise is, I guess, the place where there's like an abandoned coal mine that's now a creepy house. That's where you get to find him. That's the entrance of his, lair, and then you have that underneath that you have the sewers all connected to that one thing. I like that because Billy was new and he saw a library scene and it goes back to what you said about show don't tell. Well, they did that. They showed not Billy, but Ben, reading up the history, and you could see this through imagery, and that's creepy in itself to see Pennywise in an image that's like 100 years old.
No, that was definitely creepy, and I mean Ben got some good screen time, and even Richie did. He was the perverted foul-mouthed one.
Yeah, the one from Stranger Things.
Yeah,
his character is really fun. In the sense of that I mean, I don't know, something about that character I really did enjoy.
Well, I really enjoyed it because truthfully, he was kind of like me at that age.
Yeah.
Like that, here's one thing I enjoyed about this movie. We can all see a part of ourselves
in these characters,
and our characters. And the movie did a very good job because I remember my childhood when I first learned about cuss words and I was getting all these hormones and everything.
Yeah.
I was a lot like Richie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, yeah.
But then you have the other two characters at this point.
Three actually. Eddie.
Well, yeah, Eddie. Well, we have the other three characters at this point. Eddie gets a little bit, like you see his creepy mom, the fact that she convinces him he has all these diseases and he can't go outside.
Yeah.
Which is another perversion of the family relationship. And then you have the other two.
Yeah.
You have Mike, homeschooled kid who lost his parents in a fire, and Stanley. And they really have nothing to do in this film.
Yeah, that's what that's the other complaint about, because Mike is introduced, and we had like probably a couple of scenes, and then suddenly it's like, oh, we completely forget about Mike.
Yeah, you see him again like 3/4 of the movie. I was like, I didn't know if he was going to come back or not. I didn't know the point of that scene. So it was weird. And the same thing happened with Stanley. Stanley got his own scene early with that creepy painting, and then
that's it.
And that's it.
And the thing about Mike is that when you read the book, he was the one, and the miniseries too, he's the one who was explaining everything about the town. I mean, he was the one who was explaining, okay, this is the town's history. And instead they gave that to Ben, and I can understand why, because Ben is also involved in the love triangle between Beverly and Billy, and at the same time you want to give Ben more to do. But I felt like they could have
divvied it up a little better and gave Mike a little bit more.
Yeah, because you saw Ben, like we said, discovering about the town's history, which is perfect for the audience. But Mike could have been the one that explains the history of the town.
Yeah,
and make the pieces, take the pieces and throw them together.
And Stanley, like, I hate to say this, but I have no idea why Stanley didn't die.
Okay,
because in the sewers, they're following along, and Stanley gets at the end of the climax. They're following along, and then Stanley gets bit by that creepy painting lady.
Yeah,
and then he stays alive.
Well, you may be careful with the ritual because you may find out why by some commenters. So just prepare for spoilers.
Well, man, if you do know, I would actually love, like, send us a message on Facebook or Twitter or something, and let me know, because I'm actually curious. He may have a larger role in the part 2. I'm curious to know, because I'm probably not going to read the book that thing's like 1,100 pages.
Yeah, but we don't want to be spoiled for the next movie, do you? You are a glutton for punishment.
I am a glutton for punishment at this point. I guess I am.
Yeah. But what do you think of the plot of the film, and the pacing too?
Well, I thought the plot was really simple. I mean, as you said, this was a coming of age story. These kids are having to learn to conquer their real life fears. Yeah. Like Beverly is trying to get over her creepy father.
And same thing with Eddie and her.
Yeah, Eddie has his creepy mother. Billy has to move on from that.
Mike about being an orphan.
Yeah, Richie has to grow up. All these, so they're each dealing with their own things, and Pennywise is just a part of it.
Yeah, because Pennywise, if I'm not mistaken, in the lore of Stephen King's novels, Pennywise is more than just a clown.
Pennywise is weird. First off, some Stephen King stuff is weird.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say that. Give that disclaimer.
All right.
Pennywise isn't a clown. Pennywise isn't a thing. Pennywise is
I guess, I mean, because
Pennywise doesn't have a physical form. Because you know those lights that appear later in the film when he opens his mouth, and you know those lights that appear behind his eyes?
Yeah.
That is his true form. He is the death lights.
Okay.
That is what makes Beverly catatonic, is seeing him. He is like the manifestation of fear.
Okay, and that's the reason why he needs fear to be.
So that's the reason he needs fear to stay alive, basically. And that's the reason he prefers kids. Because kids have more... Well, fears that are easier to take advantage of, I guess you would say.
I think the best way to describe his character is if you look at the H.P. Lovecraft mythos about Cthulhu. Cthulhu is part of many ancient ones that used to roam the earth or rule the earth, and it kind of feels like the same thing. It's like Pennywise is part of it. Maybe not. I won't say an ancient one, but he pre-existed. Him and his kind pre-existed the Earth's existence.
Pre-existed the universe, basically. Because,
so
and
it's still weird, isn't it?
It's still weird. Like some Stephen King stuff is weird. And as for the climax and the pacing, other than a couple of scenes that I didn't feel were really necessary, I think the movie did a fantastic job pacing it and having an interesting plot. Because the movie had 7 characters to balance, plus the bully, and plus all these other sordid scenes with these exposition dumps and all that. And the movie did a fantastic job balancing everything.
Yeah, talking about balance, the thing I enjoyed about this film is how the bully actually himself had a motivation to be a bully.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of times these bullies are doing it because, we need an antagonist and have him be a bully, have him be mean. Well, why is he mean? Because he needs to be mean.
Yeah.
But I liked how the fact that the reason why the bully's mean is because the father is being a bully to the bully.
Yeah, he didn't learn how to kind of properly deal with his rage and emotions and things. He got his from his father, basically.
And his father was abusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there was one scene where the bully, or Pennywise, actually controls the bully.
Well, I kind of like that because Pennywise gives the bully a gift, like in the truest sense of the term. Earlier in the film, Henry had lost his knife. This is during the climax of the film. Pennywise is nice enough to give him a new one.
Yeah.
And then he walks back into his house and you see the TV, which is just really, the TV has creeped me out when that was happening. Because he first walks in the house and you don't see the TV yet, you just kind of hear it. And I'm like, wait, did it just say, is the TV like giving him commands?
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, yes, it totally is.
Yeah. And in the original film, the bully was like growing up and in a insane asylum, and Pennywise spoke through an image through the moon. I'm like, that's a bit cheesy, from the 1990s. But I liked how, when we talked about all these cheesy scenes, I liked how they incorporated these things in something that is reasonable. It's like, it makes sense that it would be coming out of TV. It's more believable. It's more...
And I kind of like it because it does seem obvious that Henry is being mind controlled at that point. Like, he's not, because of what happened with his father and because of his knife and everything, he's a lot more susceptible to the mind control.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, he killed his father because he was somewhat mind controlled, but he had built up anger inside him anyway. It completely makes sense.
It completely makes sense. Another young actor that did it was the actor that played Henry, though. No. Like, he did, like, his eyes on screen. He did a good job, like, with that dead-eyed look, and it was sufficiently creepy. Yeah. Like, were you creeped out by this movie?
I wasn't creeped out, to be honest. I mean, there were some scenes that I thought were really well done in the sense of how it looked. But to be honest, no. The thing that creeped me out about this film was not like the Pennywise scenes. Let's be more specific. It was Beverly's father.
Yeah, you did mention that. Yeah,
that creeped me out.
Yeah,
I mean, because that's something that's actually real. Because real clowns. Well, I won't say that, but demon possessed clowns don't that we know of exist.
Yeah.
But a father who would do that to a daughter definitely does, and that is what really creeped me out. And I was really scared for Beverly at that point. It's like, get out of this situation. So when she fought back, I'm like, you go.
And I did like the fact that she fought back, first off, because I like it at the end when Pennywise comes to eat her, and she's like, I'm not afraid of you. I've already fought off that monster. I'm not afraid of you.
Exactly. I mean,
I did like that.
I did.
Yeah.
For me, the pacing, I remember seeing the theater, for me, the pacing got a bit, I was ready, I guess I should say I was ready for the climax of the film at one point in the film. I did feel that for me, it's like, okay, I get the idea. I understand what's going on here. let's pick it up a bit. But
I get the reason they did that though, just because most of the longevity came from the fact that they was having to show everybody's individual dealings with Pennywise, and there was eight characters to get through.
Yeah.
So I mean, of course, that's going to take a while. And I mean, I understand why it was necessary, because had one of the other characters kind of came up to everybody else and been like, well, this is happening, they all just kind of laughed in the face.
I understand that is true. But now...
I mean, the only scene that I feel kind of really just could have been cut, that I really don't understand the necessity of, because it was implied in other ways, was the blood in the bathroom.
Okay.
I don't know. Because by that point, it had been established that the adults were all aware of this. It was an open secret, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
They were all aware that something was weird in the town. The town had people missing 6 times higher than the national average. All these kids went missing, and the adults are shrug.
Yeah.
So that scene was meant to establish that the kids are alone, that the adults aren't going to help them in this fight against Pennywise.
This, of course, amps up the tension.
Yeah, but that was already implied in other scenes. And the overall tone of the film. Because think about it. Earlier in the film, Ben is being bullied. Henry has a knife on him, looking ready to carve his initials in his stomach.
Yeah.
And the people just drive right on by. So that in itself kind of established what the scene in the bathroom did.
The scene in the bathroom was meant to show that the parents don't see the blood.
Yeah.
The parents, because they don't see the hallucination. But then I think to myself, well, why do the kids need to see it? I mean, I know they need to see it in the sense of established, but at the same time, it's the entire cleaning scene, I don't understand.
I mean, the cleaning montage just felt way too 80s. Yeah. It felt like something that belonged in the 1990s movie and just kind of got transplanted into this movie.
And I'm sure that a lot of people may say, that's the reason why this film doesn't know what it wants to be. I'm like, nah, I understand that, but one set of series of scenes is not enough to say it doesn't know where it wants to be.
And then during the climax, there I had another small thing that bothers me. This really shouldn't bother me as much as it does, but it does.
Okay.
The damn kiss.
Oh, and to take a body out of the catatonic
state.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. It felt like I was watching Snow White.
You're just not a romantic, Paul.
I am. I guess I'm not. Because the rest of the movie, I mean, it's a scene. It's a movie with a killer clown. It could easily be campy. It could easily be corny. But the movie wasn't. And then you get to that scene. And you're like, this is the campiest and corniest thing I could imagine.
It did come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But there's one thing I did like about that climax scene is when they all decided to go after Pennywise, and I'm like, they brought a weapon with them.
Yeah, I did like that.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that when Mike had the bullets and the holster with bullets, he dropped it, and so they only had one bullet left.
You like that? I don't know. That's a horror movie trope, and it bothers me because it just artificially raises the tension.
Well, I mean, I understand, but it also got a. It is important. I think it's important to take away in order to up the tension. Yeah, in order to take away people's weapons.
I do have a question.
Okay.
How did they get out of the sewers at the end of the movie? Because think about it. The way they got in, I guess maybe it connected with everything else, but they had gotten into the sewers by that hole in the warehouse, by that rope, right?
Okay.
And then Henry pulled the rope up.
Well, I'm sure that Mike dropped the rope back down when he.
I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
I was just wondering that.
Well, maybe we just forgot about him dropping the rope back down.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that was the scene. I don't know. Maybe he did. I mean, because Mike did defeat the bully in the end. Which is you really think about it, it's like that bully really, really was just nasty,
sadistic.
Sadistic.
Like he got pleasure from causing pain because he was
actually willing to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did kill. Never mind, he did kill. And Mike, of course, killed him that we know of. Yeah. Maybe he'll come back.
No, I hope not, because that would be dumb. He fell down that warehouse and very clearly broke his neck.
Okay, well, not bad. We haven't found the body yet.
One of the creepier scenes to this movie, though, is that when Billy shoots Pennywise, or when Billy shoots Georgie, and he apologizes to him and all that. That I don't know. That scene did kind of mess with my mind. It did because
that did mess with my mind because of that pause about, is Billy still alive? And I'm like, and then not Billy, but is Georgie still alive? And then Billy's like, no, I'm sorry, you're not Georgie. And then shoot, and then the movie makes you think, actually, it was. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
exactly. And then of course Pennywise comes back.
So. But I wish Pennywise would have stayed dead a little bit longer.
Me too.
Just to drive Billy crazy. I would have loved had that scene lasted a few more seconds. I think.
As a matter of fact, I think it would have worked in Pennywise's favor because it would have gone continuing on with the fear.
Yeah, he would have been so afraid that he really killed Georgie because he was determined. Like, okay, this is Pennywise. Then he would have started doubting himself and become afraid. It would have that would have been so much more powerful.
I think so too. Yeah, but
we've talked about part 2 a little bit. Like, we've talked about the fact that part 2 is coming. We're going to see these kids as adult. Do you have anyone you would like to see in the movie?
To be honest, I can't think of really anybody. I don't know, because I don't know that many actors' names.
You watch a lot of movies and you don't know these people's names.
I'm dyslexic. I don't pay attention to words. Actually, let me rephrase that. I didn't get into the habit, when I was growing up, I didn't get into the habit of memorizing or paying attention to the words on the screen. It's like, oh, look, words. Nope.
Okay.
So that's the reason why I don't really remember that many. And a lot of times, these actors, I don't really pronounce their names that well anyway.
Well, the only one I really have was, I would love to see Jessica Chastain play Beverly
okay.
in the... Like, I don't know if Jessica Chastain is fantastic. She was in Zero Dark 30. She's done horror movies before. She was in Mama. And I would also love to see Seth Green appear in the new It.
Okay.
As an adult. Just because Seth Green was in the 1990s edition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I would just like to see him again just for that reason. He could play Richie.
I'll come back again.
Yeah. I think that would just be cool. It'd be like nice serendipity, I guess.
Oh, yeah. The circle is now complete.
Exactly.
But no, it's also complete this episode because we ran out of time. But, of course, October is still going on. And next month, we're going to be talking about another classic.
Talking about Halloween. Something completely different. I convinced Joseph to watch Halloween.
The original Halloween, not the remake.
Yeah.
So let's be clear about that.
Yeah, but that is only the original. Like, the remake is just a carbon copy remake. It really adds nothing. So, of course, we're going to show you the original. And we're going to show Joseph a slasher film. And we're going to get his thoughts as a non-horror fan. And my thoughts as a huge horror fan. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I'm Joseph Collins.
And I'm Paul Combs.
And you've been listening to the CNC Geekcast.